Disciplined Entrepreneurship, 24 Steps to a Successful Startup by Bill Aulet. Picture this, the year 2000, height of the dot-com boom. A company with an adorable sock puppet mascot drops millions on a Super Bowl commercial. That company? Pets.com. Their pitch was beautifully simple. Buy pet supplies online. Investors threw hundreds of millions at them. Everyone knew their brand. On paper, they were crushing it. But here's the twist. Just 9 months after that famous commercial aired, Pets.com vanished. Poof, gone. How does a company with that much money, attention, and such a straightforward concept crash and burn so spectacularly? The answer is almost embarrassingly simple, and it's exactly why we're here. They were bleeding money on nearly every customer they acquired. The numbers just didn't add up. They'd forgotten business rule number 1. It's not about the brilliant idea, the memorable mascot, or even the mountain of investor cash. It's about building something sustainable and profitable. For decades, we've turned entrepreneurs into mythical creatures. We imagine them as lone wolves, born with some magical entrepreneurship gene, struck by lightning with world-changing ideas. We think of Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, and tell ourselves, I could never be like them. But what if we've got it all backwards? What if entrepreneurship isn't some mysterious art form, but actually a science, a skill you can learn, a process you can follow? That's the bold promise of today's book, Disciplined Entrepreneurship, by MIT's Bill Aulet. Aulet's argument is that the chaos and uncertainty of starting something new isn't just something you white-knuckle your way through. It's something you can actually manage. Sure, the creative spark matters, but it's disciplined execution that turns that spark into a roaring fire. He's created a 24-step framework, a practical roadmap that's guided thousands of students and founders from I have an idea to I have a business. By the end of today's journey, you'll have that roadmap. You'll understand that you don't need a special gene or divine inspiration. What you need is a process, a discipline. And you'll see how you can systematically stack the odds in your favor to build something truly remarkable. So where does this 1,000-mile startup journey actually begin? Not with a business plan, a logo, or a slick website. According to Bill Aulet, it starts with a question most of us get completely wrong. We ask, what can I build? Aulet teaches us to flip that completely. Who can I serve? This is the absolute foundation of everything. The single necessary and sufficient condition for a business isn't a product, it's not technology, it's a paying customer. The day someone hands you money for what you're offering, you have a business, not a moment before. But who is that customer? This is where discipline kicks in. The first and most common mistake new entrepreneurs make is what Aulet calls selling to everyone. You've got this brilliant new idea, say revolutionary waterproof fabric. Your friend thinks you should make tents. Your cousin wants waterproof underwear. Your neighbor suggests easy-to-clean stuffed animals. Try to please everyone, and you'll please no one, running out of money before finding a single person who truly loves what you do. The other trap? The China syndrome. This is the fantasy that if you capture just a tiny fraction of some massive market, if only 0.1% of people in China buy our toothbrush, you'll be swimming in money. But as Aulet calls it, this is just fun with spreadsheets. It's a fantasy that ignores the brutal reality of competition and the immense resources needed to crack a huge, established market. So what's the answer? Focus. Extreme, relentless, almost uncomfortable focus. This is the first great quest of the disciplined entrepreneur, the search for what Aulet calls the holy grail of specificity. It's a 5-step journey designed to take you from a universe of possibilities down to a single, real human being. It starts with Step 1, Market Segmentation. You brainstorm every possible type of customer who could potentially benefit from your idea. Imagine you want to use technology to improve education. Who could you serve? Teachers, administrators, parents, students. But that's way too broad. Let's narrow it. K-12 teachers. Still too broad. Public school teachers. Keep going. High school science teachers. Deeper. High school science teachers in suburban public schools in California. You keep breaking it down until you have a list of 6 to 12 promising, super-specific market segments. Now you've got a list of potential battlefields. But here's the thing. A startup, with its limited resources, can't fight on multiple fronts. You need to choose one, and only one, place to start. This brings us to step 2. Select a beachhead market. The term beachhead comes from military strategy. During D-Day in World War II, the Allied forces didn't try landing all along the French coast. They focused everything on a few key beaches in Normandy. Once they captured that small strip of land, they had a foothold to expand from and eventually win the war. Your startup must do the same thing. You need to choose one single market segment from your list that you can dominate. How do you choose? Aulet gives us critical questions. Are these customers well-funded? Can you easily reach them? Do they have a compelling reason to buy from you right now? And here's the crucial part. If you win this market, can you use it as a launching pad for adjacent markets later? Like a bowler hitting the head pin, you want your first victory to trigger a chain reaction, knocking down other pins. Let's say you've chosen your beachhead, industrial designers who work at toy and footwear companies. You've noticed they still love sculpting with physical clay because digital tools are clunky and don't let them express their creativity. You think your new 3D design technology could be the perfect fit. You're getting closer, but not there yet. You still need to understand the people within that market. So we move to step 3, build an end-user profile. Here you create a detailed description of the typical end user. What's their age, gender, income? What motivates them? What keeps them up at night? Where do they get their information? For our toy designers, we might find they're mostly male, between 24 and 35, graduated from a top art school, and see themselves as artists first, business people second. They're frustrated that their design intent gets lost when using current digital tools. This profile helps you understand your customer base in general, but in general isn't good enough. To truly build a product people love, you need to make it personal. This leads us to the culmination of our quest for specificity. Step 5. Profile the persona. The persona isn't a composite or an average. It's one single, real person from your beachhead market who embodies your end-user profile. You give them a name, a picture, a backstory, and, most importantly, a list of their top priorities. Let's call our toy designer Ed. Ed is 40 years old. He's the sculpting manager at Hasbro. He loves his job, but his biggest fear is that a great toy idea will get ruined by engineers after he hands off the design, or that it'll take so long to produce that they'll miss Christmas shopping season. So his number 1 priority is time to market. His number 2 priority is preserving his design intent. Ed is now your North Star. Every decision you make, from product features to marketing, is made with him in mind. When your team argues about a feature, you don't ask, "What do we think is cool?" You ask, "What would Ed want? What would help Ed solve his biggest problem?" The persona creates absolute clarity and forces your entire team to focus on the same target. And with this incredible focus on a single person, you can finally do some math that actually means something. This is step 4. Calculate the total addressable market for the beachhead market. Using your detailed end-user profile, you do a bottom-up analysis. You don't just guess, you count noses. You find out how many companies like Hasbro and Nike exist, and how many designers like Ed work there. You then estimate how much they'd be willing to pay each year for a solution like yours. The result is your total addressable market, expressed in dollars per year. Aulet suggests a good beachhead market is between $20 and $100 million annually. Less than that might be too small to build a sustainable business. More than that, and your market probably isn't focused enough, meaning you'll attract huge competitors before you're ready. This calculation is a sanity check. It ensures your small, focused beachhead is still big enough to be meaningful. So let's recap our first quest. We've gone from a vague idea to a specific beachhead market, and from a generic customer to a real person named Ed, whose problems we now understand deeply. We've built our foundation. Now the second big question arises: what exactly can you do for Ed? This begins the next phase, where we build a compelling promise. It starts with Step 6, Full Lifecycle Use Case. This isn't just about how Ed will use your product, it's about the entire experience. How does Ed first hear about your solution? How does he analyze it and decide to buy? How is it installed? How does he get value from it? How does he pay for it? And crucially, how does he tell his designer friends about it? You map out this entire story, visually, from Ed's perspective. This process forces you to see your product not as a collection of features, but as a solution that has to fit seamlessly into your customer's life. With that story in hand, you can finally start defining the product itself. Step 7 is the high-level product specification. This is basically a drawing, a visual representation of what your product will look like. If it's software, you create storyboards. If it's a physical device, you make a simple sketch or diagram. The goal is to get everyone on your team aligned on what it is. You'd be amazed how often people on the same team have completely different ideas in their heads. This step forces alignment. But a picture and a feature list aren't enough. You have to connect those features to what Ed truly cares about. This is Step 8, Quantify the value proposition. You create a simple, powerful comparison. On one side, you show the as-is state. Here's how Ed works today, and here's how long it takes him to get a new toy design ready. On the other side, you show the possible state with your product. Here's the new process, and here's the result. For Ed, your value proposition might be: our digital clay solution reduces your product development time from 16 weeks to 8 weeks, a 50% reduction in time to market. This isn't a vague promise of better, faster, cheaper. It's a concrete, quantifiable outcome that speaks directly to Ed's #1 priority. Now, before you get too excited about your solution for Ed, you need to make sure he's not the only person in the world who thinks this way. Step 9 is to identify your next 10 customers. You find 10 other people who fit Ed's profile. You go talk to them. You show them your product specification and your quantified value proposition. Do they get it? Are they just as excited as Ed? This step validates that you've found a scalable market, not just a one-customer solution. At this point, you've spent almost all your energy looking outward at the customer. Now it's time to look inward. What is it about you and your business that makes you uniquely capable of delivering this value to Ed? This is Step 10, Define your core. Your core is your secret sauce. It's the one thing you do better than anyone else that's incredibly difficult for competitors to copy. It's not first mover advantage. Most first movers get overtaken. It's not just your intellectual property, though that can help. Your core is a sustainable, growing advantage. It could be a network effect, where your product becomes more valuable as more people use it, like Facebook or LinkedIn. It could be exceptional customer service, like Zappos. It could be being the lowest cost provider, like Walmart. Or it could be an unmatched user experience, like Apple. For your company serving Ed, your core might be your deep expertise in the physics of three-dimensional touch, embodied in a unique software engine that no one else has. Your core is the heart of your castle, the crown jewels you protect above all else. And your core is what allows you to stake out your territory. Step 11 is charting your competitive position. Here, you create a simple 2x2 graph. The axes aren't price and quality. The axes are Ed's top 2 priorities: time to market on the x-axis and preserving design intent on the y-axis. You plot yourself and your competitors on this chart. The status quo, physical clay, is great for design intent but slow. The old digital tools are fast but terrible for design intent. Your solution, ideally, sits alone in the top right corner, both fast and great for design intent. This chart visually demonstrates why you're the only logical choice for your persona. We now know who our customer is and what we can do for them. The next part is about the nuts and bolts. How does our customer actually acquire our product? This brings us to the third theme. It begins with Step 12. Determine the customer's decision-making unit. Even for a simple purchase, it's rarely just one person making the call. You need to identify everyone involved. There's the champion, the person advocating for your product, hopefully your end user, Ed. There's the primary economic buyer, the person who controls the budget and signs the check. This might be Ed's boss. And then there are influencers, people whose opinions matter, and even people with veto power, like the IT department, who can kill a deal if your software doesn't meet their security standards. You need to understand the motivations of every single person in this unit and have a strategy to win them over. Once you know who makes the decision, you need to understand how they make it. Step 13 is to map the process to acquire a paying customer. You diagram the entire journey, from the first moment a customer hears about you to the day the money hits your bank account. How long does each step take? What approvals are needed? Is the money coming from an annual operating budget, which is easier to get, or a capital budget, which might require a year of planning? Understanding this process in detail is critical because the length of your sales cycle has a huge impact on how much money you need to survive. This brings us to the most crucial part of the entire framework, the part where we finally answer, is this a real business? This is the theme of how do you make money. It starts with an idea entrepreneurs often neglect. They get so focused on creating value that they spend very little time thinking about how to capture that value. Step 15 is to design a business model. This is not the same as pricing. A business model is the framework for how you get paid. Is it a one-time upfront charge? Is it a monthly subscription? Is it a razor and blade model, where you give away the razor and sell the consumables? Is it an advertising model? Aulet lists over a dozen different models and encourages you to be just as innovative here as you are with your product. A brilliant business model, like Google's keyword-based ads or Apple's 99 cents per song on iTunes, can be a more powerful advantage than the technology itself. Once you have a business model, then you can move to Step 16, set your pricing framework. The golden rule here is that your price should be based on the value you provide to the customer, not on your costs. Remember your quantified value proposition. If you're saving a customer $100,000 a year, you can't be afraid to charge $20,000 for it. A good rule of thumb is to capture about 20% of the value you create. This leaves 80% for the customer, which makes it a fantastic deal for them. Now we put it all together. With your business model and pricing, you can calculate two of the most important numbers in any startup. First is Step 17. Calculate the lifetime value of an acquired customer. This is the total profit, not revenue, you can expect to make from a single customer over the lifetime of your relationship, typically calculated over 5 years. It accounts for upfront purchases, recurring fees, and the chance they'll buy from you again, all discounted by your cost of capital, because money in the future is worth less than money today. The second number is Step 19. Calculate the cost of customer acquisition. This is where entrepreneurs are often dangerously optimistic. Cost of customer acquisition isn't just the cost of a few ads. It's the total cost of your entire sales and marketing engine, salaries, travel, trade shows, online campaigns, for a given period, divided by the number of new customers you won in that period. It includes all the money you spent on prospects who didn't buy from you. This number is almost always shockingly high at the beginning. Step 18, mapping the sales process, helps you build a realistic budget for these costs over the short, medium, and long term. Now comes the moment of truth. You compare your lifetime value to your cost of customer acquisition. Aulet, echoing many venture capitalists, gives us a simple, powerful rule. Your lifetime value must be at least 3 times your cost of customer acquisition. Why 3 to 1? Because the difference has to pay for all your other costs: product development, administration, overhead, and eventually, your profit. If your lifetime value is $3,000 and your cost of customer acquisition is $1,000, you have a potentially viable business. If your lifetime value is $1,500 and your cost of customer acquisition is $1,000, you're on the path to failure. Just like pets.com. This simple ratio, lifetime value to cost of customer acquisition, is the fundamental heartbeat of your business. We're getting close. We have a plan that looks good on paper, but as Aulet says, in concept and reality are the same. In reality, they are not the same at all. The next phase is about moving from paper to the real world. This is the theme of how do you design and build your product. You don't start by building the whole thing. That's a recipe for wasting time and money. First, you must confront your biggest uncertainties. Step 20 is to identify your key assumptions. You go back through all your work and list every belief you hold that hasn't been rigorously proven. You assume Ed's top priority is time to market. You assume he'll pay $20,000 for your solution. You assume toy companies will let you install your software on their network. You list them all out. Then you move to step 21, test key assumptions. You design cheap, fast, simple experiments to get empirical data that either supports or refutes your assumptions. You're not building a product yet. You're acting like a scientist. Want to test if people will click on an ad? Spend $50 on Facebook ads and see. Want to see if a customer is really interested? Ask them to sign a non-binding letter of intent to buy. Or even better, ask them to prepay. Actions speak louder than words. After testing your individual assumptions, you're ready for the big systems test. Step 22 is to define the minimum viable business product. This is a crucial distinction from the minimum viable product you might have heard about. A minimum viable business product in Aulet's framework must satisfy 3 conditions. 1. The customer gets value from using it. 2. The customer pays for it. And 3. It's enough to start a feedback loop with the customer. It's the absolute simplest version of your product that someone will actually pull out their wallet for. And this leads to the final, ultimate test, step 23. Show that the dogs will eat the dog food. This colorful phrase means you must get real-world, measurable proof that customers aren't just saying they'll use your product, but are actually using it and paying for it. You launch your minimum viable business product to a small group of customers. Are they signing up? Are they using it regularly? What's your conversion rate from a free trial to a paid subscription? Are they telling their friends? You need data, not just anecdotes. If the dogs are eating the dog food, you know you have something real. You've made it. You have a paying customer for a real product. What now? The final step is about looking to the future. Step 24 is to develop a product plan. This is where you revisit your beachhead strategy. You plan out what additional features you'll add to further dominate your beachhead market. And then you look at your bowling alley again. Which adjacent market will you attack next? After toy designers, will you go after jewelry designers, automotive designers? You create a roadmap for how your product will evolve to conquer these new markets, leveraging the core you've built. This 24-step process isn't a rigid linear path, it's an iterative spiral. As you learn something new, in a later step, you'll often have to go back and revise an earlier one, but it provides structure, a common language, and a discipline to guide you through the fog of starting something new. It takes the myth of the born entrepreneur and replaces it with the reality of the made entrepreneur, one who succeeds not by luck or genius alone, but by a disciplined process of creating something people truly want and are willing to pay for. When you first hear the phrase disciplined entrepreneurship, it can sound like a contradiction. We think of entrepreneurs as rebels, rule breakers, chaotic forces of nature. Discipline sounds, it sounds boring. It sounds like the opposite of the freewheeling creativity we associate with startups. But what I find so profound about Bill Aulet's work is his central argument that discipline isn't the enemy of creativity, but its greatest ally. True creativity isn't just about having wild ideas. It's about having the focus and the framework to turn those ideas into something real, something that actually works in the messy, unpredictable real world. The 24 steps aren't a paint-by-numbers formula for success. They're a thinking tool, a system for de-risking one of the riskiest endeavors a person can undertake. Think about it. Every step is designed to replace a blind assumption with hard-won knowledge. Instead of guessing who your customer is, you find them. Instead of hoping your product is valuable, you quantify it. Instead of assuming people will pay, you test it. What I love most for a young, aspiring founder is how this framework democratizes entrepreneurship. It says you don't have to be a certain type of person from a certain background. You don't have to wait for a perfect idea to fall from the sky. You can start with a passion, a technology, or a simple observation, and then apply a process to methodically shape it into a viable business. It turns the daunting, terrifying mountain of starting a company into a series of manageable hills, each one building on the last. So if you're listening to this and you have that itch, that feeling that you want to build something, here are a few simple ways you can start applying this thinking today. First, practice market segmentation. Take any idea you have, even a silly one, and try to break it down into at least 10 potential customer groups. Get as specific as you can. It's a fascinating exercise that trains your brain to see the world not as a monolithic mass, but as a collection of unique tribes with unique needs. Second, try to create a persona for a product you already use and love. Who is the one person that product was perfectly designed for? What are their goals, their fears, their priorities? This will help you understand that great products aren't for everyone, they're for someone. Finally, and most importantly, talk to people. The foundation of this entire process is primary market research. The answers aren't in this podcast, or even in the book itself. They're out there, in the world, waiting to be discovered through conversations with real human beings. That was our deep dive into disciplined entrepreneurship by Bill Aulet. We've walked through the core framework today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary can only ever be a map. The real adventure happens when you take the journey yourself. The true magic is in the details, the specific stories, and the nuanced examples that bring these steps to life. This summary is designed to help you see if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about has sparked a sense of possibility or given you a feeling of, I can do this, then I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's about equipping yourself with a powerful set of tools that can genuinely change how you approach building something from nothing. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it helped clarify your own path forward, please do me a small favor and hit that like button and subscribe. We're building a community of learners here, exploring the very best ideas from the world's most brilliant minds. By subscribing, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing and building together.